Childhood is something that children can relate to, and that will make them more empathetic and more curious to hear about it. Leo Laufer was imprisoned in the Lodz ghetto at the age of 17. His testimony tells us about the world of choiceless choices. It brings color to a dilemma that he faced and makes it less abstract for us.
I had a friend who was not Jewish, who lived at the next street called Goplanska. Our street, Dolna, was the last street of the ghetto. We lived almost on the corner of Dolna and Zgerska. And one day when they closed the ghetto, I decided to go across the barbed wire. I took a chance and I discussed it with his mother. Her name was Stanislava Grabowska. And her friend, we used to play soccer in the street. So I told her if she would like to make some money. And how to make some money was by smuggling some food into the ghetto, which was very dangerous for me and for her. I was willing to take the risk because I saw that the family will starve from no food. So we started to smuggle from around June of 1940 until October. To tell you the truth, that my family had more food these few months from June until October of 1940 than we had before the war.
Leo's testimony could be used to complement a lesson on the ghettos in general, specifically starvation in the ghettos and smuggling. A teacher could use the testimony to ask the questions: what were the roles of adults in the ghetto as opposed to the roles of children? Why did children become smugglers? And what were the dilemmas that faced the adults who allowed their children to be smugglers? During the Holocaust, Leo's parents and all of his brothers and sisters were murdered. Leo was the only survivor of his family.
I studied. I thought maybe the war will end in a half a year, optimistic. I was not optimistic, but desperate hopes. I thought maybe it'll end in a year. I will study, and then Poland will be reconstituted. And maybe I passed the exam before. If not, I'll pass the exam again. So I actually studied through the war. So what I used to do, get up early in the morning. I used to have to go, the thugs would come to pick up the Jewish workers, maybe 5 or 6 in the morning. Used to get up at 3, study a couple hours, and then go join the workers and go for about 10 or 12 hour day work. The main problem was, if I couldn't solve a problem mathematically, I didn't have anybody to ask.
Oscar Pinkus became a prisoner in the Loshice ghetto when he was 14. He and his family managed to escape from the ghetto, and they survived the Holocaust in different hiding places. Oscar's testimony takes us further into the world of chaos as far as children are concerned. What effect did performing forced labor have on these children? What were the other ways in which they were forced to mature? And his testimony can also be used in a different direction, the direction of spiritual resistance and heroism. Why was Oscar so stubborn about continuing to learn? Does this make him a hero? Does this mean he resisted? What does it say about his belief in the future? In her testimony, Livia recalls her deportation to Auschwitz with her parents, Rachel and Nathan Wolf. Livia was 16 at the time.
And I shall never forget that when we stopped and we heard that we are getting off, we heard voices outside. My father embraced me and he almost strangled me, kissing me. And he said goodbye. And he said, take care of yourself. He knew that he dies. And then, of course, the doors open and we see this scrawny, like scarecrows, like jailbirds, like insane people with those stripes, And then those huge dogs and officers. It was night. And then I see myself separated from my mother. I was on one side and she was with her sisters. on the other. So again, without thinking, without anything, I ran to her. And Mengele came and gave me one whack on my head. I fell, but he looked at me and he went back. He left me there.
Livia's testimony is complex and nuanced. While she doesn't say a lot with words, she says a lot with her body language. This is another one of the strengths of survivor testimony, the physical dimension of it. Livia is talking about a lot of the things that we discuss in Holocaust education, deportations, selection, but because she brings her personal memories of it, it becomes much more alive. We can use Livia's testimony to discuss the theme of separation. What happened to children when they were torn away from their families and separated from their support systems? Why was the moment of separation seared into Livia's memory so that years later she remembers exactly what her father said? We can explore what her father meant when he said, "Take care of yourself." What did his instincts tell him? Livia's father was murdered in the gas chambers. Livia's testimony could be used to complement a lesson on the selection process at Auschwitz. For instance, we could use the testimony to contribute to a discussion. Could the Jews have understood what the reality of the selection process was when the Nazis were trying so hard to conceal the reality and do everything they could to deceive them? We've seen a number of ways in which testimony that strikes a balance between the historical and the emotional can be used in the classroom. These testimonies centered on children and childhood in the Holocaust, but there are many more testimonies available on the Yad Vashem website and on our YouTube channel.